Yesterday was my sister's 25 female engagement party. My two brothers, 22 and 21, and I, 21 male, have been on the other side of the US for most of this year and didn't think we'd be there for the party, but plans shifted and we ended up arriving home last Wednesday. Now, I'm honestly not sure if I was invited so much as we simply happened to live where the event was being hosted, because it was held in my parents' house. My sister didn't outright say she didn't want us there, but we didn't see much of her in the lead-up. We didn't really know any of the people at the party, so we went round introducing ourselves to people, mingling and doing the party thing. Someone mentioned the family photos on the wall at some point, and how they were surprised to see so many of us on the wall when they didn't even know my sister had siblings. This sent me down a rabbit hole of confusion. This person elaborated and said she was surprised to see this type of photo on the wall because my sister had told all her friends that my parents were extreme workaholics. We have a really nice house, so they weren't surprised by that, just that it felt properly homey and lived in. Once again, I was thrown for a loop. Growing up, our home was the house. We had friends over constantly who were basically like extra siblings. My parents worked the normal amount and were home with us as much as possible. We got chauffeured around to sports practices, my parents took the time to get to know all of our friends well, etc. I'd even say they were more involved in our lives than average. It was my sister who really separated herself from everyone and chose to exclude herself from activities. At some point during this conversation, a few other people overheard, and soon enough there was a decent crowd of her friends around my brothers and me, listening to stories of us growing up that were blowing these people's minds because it's apparently common knowledge among their friend group that our parents were so hands-on, and uncommon knowledge that we even existed. I had a really good time and felt like I made some new friends. After the event, apparently my sister was crying because I embarrassed her in front of all of her friends, and the work she'd put in to separate herself from us golden children had been undone. Am I the idiot for embarrassing my sister at her engagement party by uncovering her lies about our childhood? You are the idiot. Something seems off if the oldest and only female had a distinctly different memory of her childhood. Further, after seeing that you were becoming a spectacle, you didn't back off and return the focus to her. You made it a party to get to know you and for you to make friends. At the same time, it sounds like you didn't care about even talking with your sister. It sounds like she was less favored due to your natural desire to make the spotlight about you and thinking your view of things is the right one. I'm with you on this. Now that he knows she's upset, it sounds like he's embellishing whatever will make him seem like just the friendly guy entertaining a group. At a party, isn't the time to get into why her guests think she's an only child, and it sounds like much more is happening. OP, you're the idiot because this wasn't your event, and even after you noticed some discrepancies that should be addressed, you decided to keep your crowd. You could have pulled her aside and asked, or better yet, for an adult at an adult event, waited until everyone else was gone. Especially her mentioning the golden child syndrome means there's a lot we don't know. Unreliable narrator, you are the idiot. Exactly. I wouldn't be surprised if the boys got different parents than the oldest daughter. And the whole, we live across the country but also at my parents so I had to do the party, right? Is bull. OP travelled for this and then played it off like he was informally invited, knowing he probably wasn't. I have the feeling the boys weren't expected to be there, and it sounds like she was given a heads up that their plans changed when they showed up. Update. I can see her experiencing something different, but radically different. I really don't think so. Not to that extent. She usually came to our games and practices when she was younger. There were other siblings there to play with, and in her later years she stayed home. She was never into anything extracurricular. She liked reading a lot. We would sometimes all go get milkshakes together, but we didn't hang out often. And no, she knew we were coming home. I didn't talk to her directly then, but if she didn't want us there, she could have communicated that to our mom. She just told our mom to remind us so we didn't invite anyone over or something. I haven't seen her since I got home, that's all. It's not like we aren't on speaking terms, it's just not the vibe for either of us to call one another. I'm very much hoping sister's friends are there for her later with a, yeah, I get why you don't associate with them, what self-centered idiots. OP, you act like a little brat. As if your sister staying home to read is comparable to the amount of almost daily practice needed for hockey. Both her parents couldn't even be bothered to attend her award events, but they all seem fine chauffeuring you to your games. You don't need to like your sister, but you shouldn't treat her with such disdain. She did nothing to you guys, and you snubbed her at her own engagement party. Talking up her guests, acting as if she was loved equally by your family, what kind of a trash person does that to their own sister? You aren't actually clueless about how little attention she got, so you're acting blasé because you never wanted to give her much thought, and you weren't going to start now. She's the lowest priority in your household, and you've normalized that as her place. Let me guess, the family also has some nice sprinkles of misogyny. I, female 28, let my sister 20 live with us while she goes to university. In return, she pays us $500 a month. This covers her room, the extra water and power, and her food. It's very fair. She also does chores and helps with the kids. That was our agreement. We wrote everything down so there was no confusion. My understanding is that room and board at her school is $1,200 a month for shared accommodation, and it's only available during the 8 months of school. So living here is $6,000 a year instead of $9,600 for 8 months, and then 4 months living with our mom and stepdad. All was well for 2 years. She's a good student and a good kid. But she has a boyfriend now, and she started complaining about watching the kids every other Saturday night so my husband and I can have a date night. So I told her I would find a sitter, but that she was responsible for paying them since she was supposed to watch the kids. Now she's complaining that her paying the sitter is using up all of her disposable income. She said she might as well stay on campus next year. I agreed and told her that was a great idea. She gets her freedom and I get my hobby room back. My mom called me and said my sister wasn't my unpaid nanny. I told her that I had already agreed that she could live on campus next semester. Then she said I was being a witch because that would increase the amount they were paying for her and that 4 months away from her job and boyfriend was cruel. I'm kind of torn. We had a deal and I think it was fair. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. $500 a month, including utilities and food, plus babysitting every other Saturday is a great deal. You should give written notice to her about the deal coming to an end and a move-out date. If one of the terms of her living with you was babysitting every other Saturday, and she won't, then it was up to her to renegotiate the terms. She wasn't willing to pay the sitter and could make other arrangements. There's sure to be off-campus housing available. She's free to find an apartment and roommates. I disagree with everyone here. You are the idiot. You don't calculate the cost of a room in your house based on what she'd pay at university. That's number one. You calculate based on what you could get from a stranger. She's not responsible for paying for your sitter. Calculate what you get for renting the room. Subtract the fact that you would never rent to a stranger because you have kids. A slight discount for her bonus for you because you have help. She's also only responsible for cleaning up after herself, not you and your spouse and children. That's extra. Where I live, a student can get a studio with utilities for $500 a month. So working 2 days a month at $20 an hour plus, it's actually more expensive to live with you. Agree. OP got a stay-in cleaner and sitter while being paid $500 a month. My mom paid for that when I was young. As I see it, OP had the real deal here. I don't know about your relationship, but if it was my sister, she would not be paying rent, only for food, electricity and such. I would take some money that would be refunded by doing extra chores and watching kids. Your deal seems to exploit. Your mother is right, your sister is not an unpaid nanny. Here's the situation. I've, 29 female, been seeing a man, Zach, 38, I met on Hinge for a month. He's generally a cool guy who seems non-judgmental. Yesterday night he came over to my place for the first time. I live in a single-family home that I bought earlier this year. We're in a high cost of living area and the house was a little over $1 million. I work hard in my career and have a high-paying job, which Zach knows about, but I come from a low-income family and grew up near the poverty line. Zach works in a non-profit and is not as financially privileged as me, which I don't care about, but he stayed the night and this morning he made a comment that just left a bad taste in my mouth. His comment implied that my parents must have helped me buy the house. It felt incredibly condescending and patronizing, and I also feel like he wouldn't have said or thought this if I were older or a man. His comment upset me and I called him out for being condescending and patronizing. He briefly apologized. Oh, sorry. He tried to justify it by saying that he thought there were other signs I came from a rich family, like having attended an elite college and driving a car my parents gave me, a 6-year-old Honda Accord. I was still upset and he ended up leaving early. Later today he texted me saying he had apologized for his assumption and that it wasn't cool that I called him condescending and patronizing for no reason. Am I the idiot for this? In my opinion, if he wasn't a condescending and patronizing person, then he wouldn't have made that assumption in the first place. I feel like the natural thinking would have been that I worked hard and did it myself, not that I must have had my rich parents help me. Edit, for more context on what he said, we were talking about how the city is so expensive to live in, and he said, "It's cool how you were able to buy this place. It's awesome when the family can help." Not the idiot. Zach isn't being condescending, he's being insecure and probably jealous because you've made sound financial decisions and worked hard to get where you are. The age difference compounds this. His way of coping is to imply your parents contributed significantly to your financial success. This would relieve him of his self-imposed burden of being a failure when compared to you. You've been seeing him for a month. It sounds like he isn't worth getting to know more deeply. Go ahead and move on. I don't think I can call him an idiot. I'm from a high cost of living area, and if I saw someone under 30 buying their first house and $1 million one at that, I think I would come to the same conclusion as boyfriend. That's not because I underestimate women or whatever, but because in high cost of living, parents helping kids buy their first house is so common and is the norm, to the point where we have a term for it: bank of mum and dad. He was still condescending. He could have admitted and apologized for it. I'd be mortified if I made that assumption and it turned out wrong. You called him, as you saw him, a condescending and patronizing idiot, LOL. And you're right. If you were some bro he met at the gym, he would have been impressed at your success, but since you're a woman, what man helped you? Run. I, teen female, have leukemia. I was diagnosed 2 months ago. It's been very, very difficult. Chemo is a complete monster, but I'm trying to stay strong. Today is my grandma's 70th birthday. My extended family wants to do a big party. Since I'm sick, they made it safe. It was outside, everyone wore masks, and there was lots of hand sanitizer and Clorox wipes. Since being sick, I dress very comfy in lounge shorts and a t-shirt most days. Well, today I did the same thing. Well, a few family members, aunts and uncles and a few older cousins, kept asking why I decided to dress like that and that I should put more effort into my appearance. Nobody was super dressed up, but I was the most underdressed. My parents said something but didn't want to get mad because they didn't want to ruin the day for my grandma, which I understand. Chemo messed up my taste buds and made me nauseous. The main things I can't eat that don't make me completely sick are different types of potatoes, grilled chicken, and popsicles and slushies. Well, all they had that I could eat and not vomit were popsicles, so I had a few. Those same family members kept criticizing me, saying I needed to be healthier and eat actual food. I explained, so did my parents, that the chemo has made me not able to eat a lot of foods and popsicles are one of the safe things I can eat. I wanted to yell at them, but my parents reminded me we shouldn't ruin the day for Grandma. Well, I held my tongue until I complained about being exhausted and wanting to go home soon to my mom. And one of my aunts said, "What do you do that makes you so tired? Every time I talk to your dad, you're lying around or watching TV." I finally got too upset, so I said, well, my body constantly tries to fight off cancer cells while making the rest of me sick and weak. Then I said, so if you guys want to keep criticizing me, you guys can experience cancer and chemo, and then if you want to keep attacking me, go right ahead. I then apologized to my grandma and walked away. As I did, I heard my aunts and uncles grilling my parents for what I said. My parents aren't upset, but I do feel like I ruined the party by saying what I said. So, am I the idiot? Edit, they do know I have cancer. I guess they think I should be putting up a front and acting like I'm not super sick all the time. Not the idiot, they ruined the party, not you. They know you have cancer and are having chemo. They can't be this clueless and tacky. Or I guess they can. I wonder what the payoff was for them treating you this way. I mean, talk about kicking someone when they're down. It always baffles me that some adult humans can't process how illnesses and various conditions affect people's lives dramatically. Like it's going to stop because they feel it's inconvenient for them suddenly. This reminds me of earlier in my wife's cancer treatment when my mother-in-law kept asking her to put up a front and show up because of how it would look if she didn't attend the second half of some stupid little event after she wore herself out already attending the first. My jaw dropped. I was speechless. And my mother-in-law had the gall to complain to my wife afterward about how that was rude. Screw cancer. Screw the idiot to treat people with cancer like garbage. Best wishes for success in your battle. My son, nearly adult male, is a cheater. He's had a girlfriend, teen, for 3 months and a boyfriend, 18, for a year. I've talked to him about it and he just says he's going to figure it out and break up with one of them. That was 3 months ago. So his boyfriend was at our house today and they were watching something on HBO Max. So I decided to invite his girlfriend over to hang out since she didn't have to work today. I figured if he could hang out with his boyfriend, he could hang out with his girlfriend. She shows up and rings the doorbell. I asked my son to open it. He panicked and tried to hide his boyfriend quickly but realized that wouldn't work, so he just let her in. My boyfriend asked who his friend was and he just said her name. Everything was fine until he tried to kiss my son. Then he had to explain everything. The boyfriend gets mad and starts yelling at my son. The girlfriend starts crying. My son broke up with her and apologized and said he'd call her later. Then he started crying and apologizing to his boyfriend. I thought watching his lies blow up was quite amusing. My SO and son are saying that I was wrong to send him up like that. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. He's old enough to know what he's doing. He had 3 months to do the right thing and still didn't. In my books, he got off easy. Also, once a cheater, always a cheater. This may be what he needed to break it off before he created a full cycle for himself, and it might prevent him from doing it again. I'm sorry, I don't agree. OP's the idiot. Cheating is definitely wrong, and as the teen's mom, OP had a responsibility to talk to him and make sure he puts it right. But did she need to go nuclear? How is it fair on either of his partners to be put in that drama? They did nothing wrong, but both of them will suffer as much, if not more, than the son for the experience. And how is OP not an idiot for enjoying the whole spectacle? What a terrible way to parent.